Picture this. You're at work and you've spent like literally weeks, maybe even a full month, pulling numbers from 5 different platforms.
Oh, yeah. We have all been there.
Right. You've compiled this perfect slide deck, the charts look pristine, the data is completely bulletproof.
Dream scenario.
Exactly. And you finally get the leadership team together to review it. You present this hard-won, brilliant insight about a shift in consumer behavior. And then
Let me guess.
someone in the room points out that the market already shifted 2 weeks ago.
It is, honestly, the ultimate modern workplace heartbreak. You did all the math right, the analysis was totally flawless, but the opportunity to actually act on that data has just completely passed you by.
Yeah.
Your insight is basically a historical artifact at that point.
Exactly. We are operating entirely in the rearview mirror, trying to steer this very fast-moving car.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, that is the mission for our deep dive today. Welcome to the deep dive, by the way. Today, we are going to figure out why, despite having endless streams of data and massive dashboards and all the analytics platforms money can buy, modern businesses still really struggle to actually do anything with that information quickly.
It's a profound paradox. I mean, when you really think about it, organizations have never been more informed.
Yeah.
Yet structurally, they've rarely been more paralyzed by the sheer volume of that information.
Totally. So to figure out how to break that paralysis, we are looking at a really fascinating hot-off-the-press article by Shish S. from Microsoft.
Uh-huh.
Now, Shish works with Microsoft for startups, specifically a program called Pegasus. And he details the work they're doing with a standout startup called A.Team.
Right, A.Team.
Yeah, and what A.Team is building fundamentally changes this whole dynamic through something called agentic systems. So we're going to explore how they are turning data from a historical report into, like, a live steering wheel.
Which represents a massive, massive paradigm shift in enterprise software. We're talking about moving from a world where data just sits there waiting for a human to interpret it, to a world where the system itself actively participates in the execution of the work.
Okay, so let's start with the core problem,
Yeah.
which the article identifies as the insight-to-action gap.
Right.
Over the last decade or so, marketing teams and really entire organizations have invested heavily in these complex measurement frameworks. Every single campaign click, every channel shift, every customer interaction, it all generates a signal.
Yeah, the grand promise of the big data era.
Right, exactly. The assumption was always that more signals would naturally equal better outcomes.
That was the foundational assumption of basically all modern marketing tech. If we just have more visibility, if we can just track absolutely everything, we will automatically make better decisions.
But that didn't happen.
No, the reality is that the gap between seeing something and doing something about it hasn't really closed at all. Insights are generated, yes. Reports are reviewed, decisions are eventually made. But the execution, the actual, turning of the ship, that lags far behind the speed of the market.
It feels to me, well, it's like having a state-of-the-art dashboard in your car that tells you exactly when and why the engine is failing.
Okay, yeah.
But to fix it, you have to pull over, form a committee, wait for executive approval, and then write a status report before you're officially allowed to hit the brakes.
Oh, wow.
And by the time that whole process finishes, you've already crashed the car.
What's fascinating here is the structural flaw that guarantees that crash.
Right.
Think about how the traditional marketing pipeline physically operates.
Okay.
It is perfectly linear, which makes it perfectly slow.
Right, step by step.
Exactly.
Right.
First, data is collected across all these multiple isolated systems. Then, analysts have to manually extract it, clean it, and interpret it.
Which takes forever.
Right. Then, those interpretations are surfaced on dashboards. And finally, teams have to schedule a meeting, look at the dashboard together, align on a strategy, and then authorize someone to go back into the tools and actually make a change.
Step 1, Step 2, Step 3, Step 4. Every single handoff takes time.
Exactly.
It requires human bandwidth, and it introduces latency.
Yeah, this model creates a system that is incredibly well-informed, but entirely unresponsive. By the time the human committee reaches the end of that pipeline, the data is just stale.
Totally.
And the article really highlights how dangerous this latency is in fast-moving categories like consumer packaged goods or CPG.
Oh, sure. Think about like a viral trend on social media that suddenly spikes demand for a specific beverage flavor.
Right, like a TikTok trend or something.
Exactly. If it takes you 2 weeks to notice the spike, approve a new ad spend, and shift your messaging, the trend is over.
You missed it.
Completely. The stakes there are incredibly real.
Well, in CPG, consumer preferences and retail signals change by the hour, not the quarter. If your competitor operates closer to real time, they win. They gain immediate advantages in media efficiency, they can respond to pricing changes instantly, and they basically capture consumer engagement while your team is still trying to find a time that works for everyone to hold a review meeting.
The classic scheduling nightmare.
Right. And that organizational lag creates massive financial exposure.
Because the bottleneck isn't a lack of data. It's that the plumbing we built to use the data relies on human consensus at every single valve.
Exactly.
Which brings us to A.Team and the Microsoft Pegasus portfolio. They're tackling this by rebuilding the plumbing, starting with fixing the data silos.
Right. Step one.
Yeah, they are bringing together structured data and unstructured data into a single intelligence layer.
To understand why that matters, we have to look at what those data types actually are. Structured data is easy. That's your campaign spend, your click-through rates, the neat little rows and columns in a spreadsheet.
Stuff that's easy to track.
Exactly. Unstructured data is the messy reality of the market. It's retail foot traffic, complex supply chain pings, consumer sentiment and text reviews, or even like weather patterns affecting store visits.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because, wait, unifying data isn't exactly a new idea, right?
No, not at all.
Right. I feel like I've been hearing enterprise software companies promise a single source of truth for literally a decade. Every vendor says they will break down your silos.
Oh, absolutely.
So why is this intelligence layer from A.Team any different than the dashboard we've been promised since, like, 2015?
It is a highly valid point, and you should definitely be skeptical of the single source of truth pitch. Unifying data to establish a shared understanding across teams is really just phase one.
Okay.
And honestly, if that's all a tool does, it's just a slightly better version of the car dashboard you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
It only improves human visibility. It does not change how decisions are actually executed.
Right, you still have to pull over and form a committee.
Exactly. The breakthrough that she's just highlighting here isn't the unified data itself. It's the fact that the unified data is now machine readable in real time, which enables the software to take the next step on its own.
So having all the structured and unstructured data in one place is just setting the stage. It's not the solution itself. It's the prerequisite for the actual solution.
That's the vital distinction. Legacy dashboards were built for human eyes to read. A unified intelligence layer is built for artificial intelligence to act upon.
Wow.
Once the system has a continuous, unified view of what is happening across the entire business, it can actually start to do something about it.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because the article introduces the concept of agentic workflows.
Yes.
A.Team isn't just aggregating data so you can look at it. They are deploying software agents that operate continuously across the entire marketing lifecycle.
And we really need to define what an agent actually is in this context, because that term gets thrown around a lot right now.
Yes.
How is this different from, say, setting up an automated rule in your email or a basic if-then trigger in your ad platform?
Right, because automation has been around forever. If I tell a software program, hey, if my ad cost goes above $5, pause the campaign.
Yeah.
That's an automation, but that's not what an agentic system is doing.
No. An automation is rigid. It only knows how to follow a very specific path you pre-programmed. To use an analogy, traditional software is like a thermometer.
Okay.
It tells you the room is 85 degrees, but you still have to get up, walk across the room, and open the window.
Right.
Basic automation is like a simple rule. If it hits 85 degrees, turn on a fan.
Yeah, simple.
But an agentic system is like a smart thermostat connected to the entire house. You give it a broad goal, keep the house comfortable and energy efficient.
Oh, I see.
It reads the temperature, checks the weather forecast, realizes the sun is hitting the south windows, automatically lowers the blinds, and adjusts the AC, all without you telling it exactly how to do it.
Translating that to a marketing team. The source details how these agents monitor campaign performance and retail signals continuously.
Right.
They don't just alert you to a problem, they identify patterns, recommend actions, and most importantly, they coordinate the execution.
Let's walk through the actual mechanics of how an AI agent alters a live campaign. Suppose there is a sudden drop in ad performance on a specific social platform, but simultaneously, unstructured data shows a spike in organic brand mentions in a specific geographic region.
Okay.
In the old model, a human analyst has to spot both of those disconnected facts, realize they are related, write a proposal to shift the budget, get approval, log into the ad platform, and manually change the bids.
Which takes days.
At best. But an agentic system processes those signals instantly. Because it has access to the APIs, the digital connective tissue of your marketing platforms, it can actually reason through the problem.
Wow.
The agent realizes, hey, I am authorized to maximize return on ad spend. Performance is dropping here, but demand is spiking there. It then actively pings the ad platform's API to pause the failing ads and reallocates the budget to capitalize on the regional spike. It executes the pivot entirely autonomously.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we are witnessing a monumental shift in the fundamental architecture of business software.
Absolutely.
For decades, enterprise software was built as a system of record, a digital filing cabinet. It stored what happened, logged the transaction, and maybe generated a chart to support a human's decision-making process.
Now we are moving towards systems of action. These are tools that actively participate in the execution of the strategy.
Right.
The system acts. It doesn't just inform. It closes the insight to action gap because the entity generating the insight is the exact same entity executing the action.
I want you listening to really imagine what that means for your day-to-day reality. Think about the last time you had to manually halt an underperforming ad spend or scramble to capitalize on a sudden market trend.
Oh, the scrambling.
How many emails did it take? How many Slack messages? How many hastily scheduled Zoom calls just to get alignment?
Too many.
Imagine shifting from that stressful, periodic decision-making process to a continuous operation. The software is just constantly humming in the background, handling the immediate tactical pivots for you.
It changes the fundamental nature of what a marketing team actually does all day. But for this to work, we have to talk about how humans and agents actually interact.
Yeah, that's crucial.
If this digital coworker lives in some complex separate dashboard that you have to remember to log into, it's going to fail.
That is a massive point.
Yeah.
If it's a separate destination, it just becomes another silo, another chore on the team's to-do list. The friction of attempting a new interface usually kills enterprise innovation.
Which is why integration into the existing flow of work is the linchpin here. The article details how A.Team isn't trying to force marketers into a new app.
Right.
Instead, they embed this intelligence directly into the Microsoft ecosystem, specifically tools like Teams and Copilot.
So these agentic workflows are operating right where the human teams are already collaborating. When the agent identifies a trend or has a recommendation, it doesn't just send an automated email from a generic address. It surfaces that insight directly in the chat environment.
Picture working in Microsoft Teams. An agent pings the channel and says, hey, I noticed a 15% drop in conversion efficiency on campaign X over the last 4 hours.
Okay.
I recommend reallocating $5,000 to campaign Y, which is trending upward. Do you approve?
Wow.
The human clicks approve right there in the chat, and the agent goes via API and executes the change across all the platforms. The execution becomes part of the exact same environment where the conversation is happening.
The friction is just entirely eliminated.
Yeah.
And the measurable impact of this shift, which Shish notes from A.Team's work with enterprise marketers, is really striking. First, insight identification accelerates massively.
Yeah.
We are talking about moving from end-of-the-month postmortems to same-day detection of market shifts.
Second, media efficiency improves drastically because the system is doing cross-channel optimization constantly. Humans have to sleep, APIs do not.
Very true.
Revenue opportunities increase because the system captures microsignals like a hyper-local weather event, driving demand for a specific product that a human analyst scrolling through a massive spreadsheet would simply overlook.
But the most profound shift, the source points out, is in human productivity. Operational energy moves away from the tedious manual assembly of data.
Right.
Because the humans aren't spending 3 weeks building slide decks anymore, they can actually shift toward high-level strategic thinking.
This raises an important question, though. What happens to the system itself when you let it run continuously like this? Because we aren't just talking about a one-time efficiency boost.
Yeah.
We are talking about the compounding value of continuous learning.
The feedback loop.
Exactly. Because these agents operate in a continuous cycle, every single action they take generates immediate feedback.
Right.
The agent reallocates budget based on a demand signal. Well, did that reallocation actually drive a higher conversion rate? Did that messaging tweak actually improve engagement?
It tracks the outcome.
Yes, the system reads the result of its own action, learns from it, and refines the next decision.
It's building muscle memory, but at the speed of software. A human marketer might run a dozen major campaigns a year and learn from those macro cycles.
Right.
An agentic system might execute thousands of micro adjustments a week, learning from every single one.
The architecture gets smarter the longer you leave it turned on. This is where the competitive advantage becomes structural.
Yeah.
If your competitor is using an agentic system that runs 1,000 optimization loops a week, and your team is running one optimization loop a month after a committee review, you cannot outwork them. The math simply breaks.
As these systems become faster and smarter, it really forces business leaders to look in the mirror and ask some hard questions about their own readiness for this kind of speed.
Absolutely.
The bottleneck is no longer the technology. The technology exists today. The bottleneck is organizational readiness.
Are your processes built to handle an entity that can execute 1,000 times faster than your fastest employee?
So what does this all mean? If we zoom out from the specific tools, from Pegasus and A.Team, and look at the broader landscape Sheesh is describing, it means the era of waiting weeks for a report to make a marketing decision is officially over.
It really is.
The bridge between insight and action is fundamentally changing. It is no longer a human reading a dashboard and scheduling a meeting. It is an automated agentic loop.
We are transitioning from systems that record history to systems that actively shape the present.
And Sheesh poses a series of incredibly direct questions to marketing leaders in the article, and I really want to pose them directly to you listening right now.
Yeah, these are important.
Think about your own organization's reality. How long does it actually take you to move from a new insight to a concrete action?
Good question.
What percentage of the insights your team painstakingly generates actually drive a decision before the window of opportunity closes? Can your organization respond to a localized market change within hours?
Usually the answer is no.
Right. And ultimately, is your current tech stack designed for reporting, or is it designed for execution?
Those are the defining questions of the next decade of enterprise work. And as you mull those over, I want to leave you with one final thought to explore on your own.
Okay.
At the very bottom of the source text, Shish links to some of his other writings. And one title in particular immediately jumped out as a profound summary of where this is all heading. It's titled, From Approval to Autonomy, Building a Trust Layer for Agentic Retail.
Building a trust layer. That is a fascinating way to frame it.
It's the ultimate implication of everything we've discussed today. If our enterprise systems become fully autonomous systems of action that execute in real time without needing our constant manual approval, the human job changes completely.
Right.
Your job is no longer analyzing data. Your job is no longer pulling levers in an ad platform. Instead, your job will be managing that trust layer.
Setting the boundary.
Exactly. You will be the architect of the boundaries. You will define the rules of engagement, setting the guardrails so the AI doesn't, accidentally spend your entire annual budget on a typo.
That would be bad.
Very bad. You will decide what these agents are allowed to do entirely on their own and what specific high-stakes decisions still require a human hand on the wheel.
We basically stop being the operators of the machine, and we start being the managers of the digital agents who operate the machine.
Precisely. So the ultimate question isn't just whether you have the right unified data or the smartest software. The real question is, are you ready to manage software that acts autonomously on your behalf?
Managing the trust layer. That really reframes everything about how we view our daily work and our future value. Well, thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive.
It was a fun one.
Keep asking those hard questions. Look at your own workflows to see where the friction is slowing you down. And remember, the goal is to fix the car before it crashes, not to write a perfect report about why the engine failed. We'll see you next time.